Hello and welcome to my April 27th, 2026. In this video, what I want to do is talk about my two experiences I had where I believed I was in communication with God. Now, the thing is that I believed it at the time during the experiences that it was real. But after it ended, especially after the first experience, I was reluctant to believe that it was real. I very happily chose to think that I was just being delusional. So the first experience was very technical. It was about the design of the universe, our design, how God designed us, how God designed everlasting life, and who God is, where God is, how God started creating, and what God is. And I learned about 50 things about everlasting life. The second experience, I learned everything about myself from everlasting life, about Asgareth, and I also learned about Jesus. Now, I really want to stress that when I say I learned, I actually remembered. So I never ever in my entire life have I ever hallucinated. So I've never heard voices and I've never seen things that were not there. So I want to stress that the experiences were not that I was hearing God's voice. I wasn't hearing anything in my mind at all. What it was is that I was remembering. And I was really aware of that. And I'm going to make a video about the experiences that people may have had with God as well, like for example Moses, and what went on there. That some of it was truly communication with God through memories, but because it is an internal process happening in your mind, and by God's design, we are self-talking. We self-talk in any possible way. So first person, second person, third person, and we can, talk and answer within our minds. We can, it can be uh, quite the busy little mental situation. So I'm going to talk more about the experiences, but so the second experience, I learned about 75% of what you're going to read in my book, Judgment Day and Thereafter, where I um, talk about everlasting life and about everything I learned. So it's kind of funny, isn't it? Because I keep saying I learned it, but I remembered it. So I remembered it, and at the same time, here I learned it. So, so what did I learn? I learned that reality is something I have never ever considered. We're so used to believing that when we die, we go into an afterlife where we exist as ghosts and where reality is simulated. So, physical reality is a simulation in this afterlife. Sorry, my dog is in here with me and she's being good, so just sometimes she makes noise. So, we believe that heaven is a simulated projection of what we love. We love our physical lives, don't we? We love eating, drinking, walking, swimming, running, feeling, the breeze, you know, going for a hike in the mountains, and we love the scenery. So all of our five senses, we enjoy that existence. Yet we believe that this is how God would design it, is that he would take that away and put us in a place where that experience is a simulation. And not only that, but also I've seen videos of people who believe they've been to the afterlife, but also we lose our privacy. We lose a sense of ourselves because all of a sudden we become telepathic with everybody else. And so we lose our privacy of our thoughts. And, that's what we believe. But what I learned during both of my experiences is that that is not the case. This is what I learned, is that the entire universe, in its incredible vastness, it seems infinite, but it is finite. But the entire universe is everlasting life, except for the earth. Earth is not part of everlasting life yet. It is due to join everlasting life on Judgment Day. That is true. Judgment Day will truly happen. But it's not at all what we're used to believing that Judgment Day is from the Bible. Now, because I'm talking about the Bible, I quickly want to stress that I'm not trying to start a religion. I'm not religious. This is not about religion. So when you think about religion, what defines religion? Religion is defined by rituals. So I'm not going to ever be telling you how to live your life and, say certain things and dress a certain way and eat certain things and not eat certain things. That would be breaking God's one law, right? Thou shalt not prevent nor hinder the free will of anyone. Thou shalt not enslave anyone to your will. So I'm not trying to start a religion. This is about reality, physical reality. So I watch a lot of Brian Greene and, all those theoretical physicist shows, and they always talk about reality this, reality that. And I always wish they would define what is reality? How would you define reality? So I'm going to define reality. Reality is physicality. Matter is reality. So our universe is a quantum mechanics universe, and it's the universe of matter. So matter is finite, and that's what makes our universe finite. And so physical reality is what the truth is. The truth is physical. There are two types of truths. The truth, which is physical reality, and your truth, our truths, my truth. That's the second type of truth. But so everything I'm talking about is about physical reality. And kind of lost my track of thought there. That's what's going to happen. Maybe one day I'll do live videos where people can remind me where I was trying to go. And I'm trying to make my videos without editing. But what I want to say is that I'm not trying to start a religion. I'm trying to talk about physical reality. And the reality is the universe is teeming with life planets. There are life planets everywhere. And they are all part of everlasting life. This is why we're not allowed by God. God prevents us, infant intelligence, from seeing all the life planets, even though they're everywhere. And the reason is because Earth is an infant intelligence planet. So the universe is cyclic. It is cyclic by the design of God. So it's cyclic because God restarts it at the end of a universe cycle. And that is how God achieves infinity for us. And only once per universe cycle, let's say once every 20 billion years, a planet like Earth evolves vessels perfect for intelligence. It evolves human beings, and then God adds soul. So souls are real. We have a soul. And that's what makes us God's children. So all living beings are intelligence. Intelligence meaning communication. So all living beings communicate somehow. Intelligence with a small I. Except for us, we are intelligence. We are capital I intelligence because we are God's children. We communicate on the same level as God. That means God communicates with us verbally. That is the apex of communication, is communicating verbally. Telepathy is impossible. I'm going to talk about that in another video. But even God does not read our minds, by the way. And so this is why during my experiences, I would always mumble things out loud to God so that God could hear me when I had questions. And then I would receive a memory. And why? How is this done? With permission. I gave God permission to do this in everlasting life, as Gareth did. It was a whole 15-year preparation for my awakenings here on the earth. But so once a universe cycle, a planet like Earth evolves vessels perfect for intelligence, and then God adds soul, and then begins to raise his intelligence children. So even though it feels as though we are without the presence of God, God is present. However, God follows the one law, and therefore it is designed in this way, is that people from everlasting life, like Askereth, like me, must choose ourselves. God does not choose us. I'm not a chosen one. We choose ourselves to help God raise infant intelligence by being born here. And then God guides us throughout our lives to achieve that which we chose ourselves for. And this is all part of what Jesus promised, that all of our dreams will come true. So, for example, if infant intelligence is having a hard time making certain discoveries, like relativity, then somebody from everlasting life will choose themselves to discover it and help guide the infant intelligence towards technology. And that is what it's about. So infant intelligence are left alone to develop their thinking, language, and yes, sometimes if they're having a hard time, people from EL will be born here and help people develop language. And then as soon as infant intelligence has today's technology, that is when the awakening era will happen. In the awakening era, there's 4 signs of the awakening era that it's happening. Physical signs. Again, everything is about reality. Reality is physical. Excuse me. So why is it designed like this? Because we need that diversity in everlasting life. So you can either be born in everlasting life, or you can begin your existence as infant intelligence, born on an infant intelligence planet. And then you choose yourself for everlasting life by doing good deeds, just like Jesus said. That is how you choose yourself. Don't have slaves and do good deeds. So you can either be born in EL, and 98% of people from everlasting life are born into everlasting life. But we still need that variety, that DNA. So a planet is allowed once per universe cycle to evolve new human beings. And then because of free will, they are left alone. Except when God raises his infant intelligence by the design of people from everlasting life choosing themselves to help God raise infant intelligence. And that is how I can say I am from everlasting life. I remembered everlasting life first. So, earth will join everlasting life on Judgment Day. Judgment Day is not a day of doom, it's not apocalypse. That's not what's going to happen. And this, what I'm going to say next, is going to make a lot of people angry because people fall in love with their beliefs, and then sometimes they will try to do anything to to prove that their beliefs are the truth. And so we've been believing, because of the Bible, that there's going to be a second coming of Christ. However, what I learned is that that is not the truth, because, again, the one law, free will. Even Jesus has to choose himself to do what he does on infant intelligence planets, what he did on the earth, which is point at the right God. That's all it's about. And tell us to not have slaves and do good deeds. That's how you choose everlasting life. And because of the one law, we are self-judging. God does not judge. And Jesus will be back to judge. And honestly, if you love Jesus, why would you want to burden him to hear the terrible things that is the people have done of, a population of 8 billion? Why would you want to put Jesus through that? That is not the design. And certainly Jesus will be back to rule for 1,000 years. That is not who Jesus is. I remember Jesus from everlasting life. I met Jesus. I remember meeting Jesus, and again, I'm not special in any way. Everybody in everlasting life knows Jesus because Jesus is God's son. We are God's children too. Jesus is a human being just like us. But Jesus was not born through evolution. Jesus was not born from parents. Jesus has only one parent, and that's God. God created Jesus, a living human being with his own soul through God's power. And that is how Jesus is unique and special. And it's important to say that by God's promise, this has only ever been done once and will never ever be done again. So Jesus will always be very special that way. And the purpose of Jesus is to do what he does on infant intelligence planets, which is a very hard task. And now that you know that Jesus is a human being, I hope you love him so much more. Because again, Jesus has to choose himself to do this. God does not approach Jesus and say, you're going to do this now. Jesus has to choose himself. And then God prepares him. And so know that Jesus knew he was going to die. He was going to be killed on the cross before he was even born. So, infant intelligence planets always have very similar experiences. They are plagued with the intelligence virus. Any kind of thinking and believing that hurting somebody physically, mentally, or financially is okay, it's not okay, because it breaks God's one law. When you hurt somebody physically, you're enslaving them. When you're brainwashing somebody, when you're lying, when you're cheating, you're enslaving them to that lie. And of course, when you steal and, forge checks and stuff like that, then you're enslaving people to your debt. So that's why slavery comes in 3 forms. And the way to choose yourself for everlasting life is to follow God's one law. That's all you have to do. If I was, like I said, I'm not trying to start a religion, but you would open the book and that would just be that one law. That's all. Follow that one law. And you choose yourself for everlasting life by doing good deeds. And again, because of free will, we are self-judging. That means that this is what Judgment Day will be like. If you wake up on Judgment Day, then you made it and you will never die. On Judgment Day, or your death day before the Judgment Day, if you did not choose everlasting life, then you will simply not wake up in everlasting life. But on Judgment Day, we all meet God. So even those who chose death will still meet God, because we are God's children and we do not die believing lies. So we all meet God, and God reveals the truth, even to those, especially to those who chose to live breaking God's one law. And, we self-judge according to God's one law. Did you have slaves? And did you do good deeds or bad deeds? You will self-judge. So on the Judgment Day, if you wake up, it will be a day of amazement and wonder, because Judgment Day is a day of first contact. So people from everlasting life will bring their spaceships, and that's God's technology that God gave us to control his technology, which would be the universe. So it is otherwise not found in the universe. That's why the technology can do amazing, incredible things. There will be spaceships everywhere, just above the rooftops. Not very even that big, only about 2 to 3 times bigger than a big house, and maybe even smaller. And they're gonna be everywhere. Anywhere where there are human beings on the planet Earth, there's gonna be spaceships. So we don't have to call them UFOs anymore. And in them will be human beings from everlasting life, just different races. But they're not gonna come out of the spaceships. They're just gonna be there. And then there's gonna be no sound. They're gonna make no sound. You're not gonna hear any engine noise. And from what I remember is that they were sitting atop like a glowing cloud of colors, and they were all different colors. So it was kind of very magical too. When you live in a big city and there's all these spaceships and they're all different colors, and some colors are new to us. And they're just going to sit there because they're waiting for God's go ahead. Because in everlasting life, we communicate with God. Each of us has, and that's another thing I'm going to talk about, how God communicates with us in everlasting life. But they're waiting for God's go ahead to start coming down one by one. On different streets, they will start coming down. And groups of survivors of our civilization will then have a chance to go up to the aliens that come out, and the aliens will speak whatever language, because God will teach them the language. But in EL, we have a universal language, and they will be able to answer questions that people will have. And also on Judgment Day, everybody that is an adult will be given the option to go with the aliens anywhere in the universe to another life planet. And Jesus said, there are many rooms in my Father's house, the universe. Look at it, how vast it is. Everybody has a home. Nobody is homeless. in everlasting life. And of course, on that day, if you have an illness, a physical or a mental illness, when you wake up in everlasting life, that will be gone. If you have missing limbs, God will return them to you. Anything that's missing, anything that's imperfect, you will wake up and have perfect biology. So your body is a vessel for your intelligence. I know we believe our body is a temple. It's not. Your intelligence is your temple. Your mind is your temple. Take care of your mind. And sometimes we do that. Sometimes it has to be done by changing how we take care of our physicality, our biology, right? So you will have the option to go anywhere in the universe. And, as Askirith, me, my soul belongs to Askirith. She was born infant intelligence as well. And so on Judgment Day, I was 15, my brother was 19, and our parents, to our surprise, chose to go to another planet. And that is a memory that, Judgment Day, whatever you experience on Judgment Day is going to be your special memory forever. You will tell your kids, your grandkids, you will tell, your new friends the story of Judgment Day on your planet. And that is also how, when Jesus said, you will inherit the earth, that is what Jesus meant. Is that earth will then forever be your birth planet. It may not be your home planet. You might never feel like earth is your home. Sometimes finding your home, it takes a lot of journey and travel. So you will have that option on Judgment Day. But also, Judgment Day is a 24-hour period, by the way. It lasts only 24 hours. It's a sad day. It's a day of mourning, because those who chose death will not awaken. Not because God took their life again, but because on Judgment Day it will end. God will say, this is the end of rule by infant intelligence, and it is the beginning of my rule by God's rule. And so that day, that's why the awakening era happens. That's why I'm talking about it now, so that you all have a chance to choose yourself, to wake up on Judgment Day. And so if you chose death, if you had slaves and you weren't doing good deeds to choose yourself, then you will not wake up. But those of us who woke up on Judgment Day, doesn't mean that we stop loving you. Because, I had an older brother who chose not to wake up. And so it's a day of mourning for that reason. We mourn the dead. But on Judgment Day, if you chose death, you meet God, and then God says goodbye to you. And then God forgets you. And your soul self-extinguishes. Again, everything is free-willed. Your soul will self-extinguish. And because God forgets you, and also we forget you upon our first sleep in everlasting life. We will give God permission to cleanse our soul free of the intelligence virus, and that includes letting go of those who were negative and who chose death. We will forget you on everlasting life, in everlasting life. And that means that you will have ceased to have ever existed. You will cease to exist on Judgment Day. So I know right now we're remembering a lot of bad people. We're studying them even. But God has already chosen to forget them. And on Judgment Day, we will forget all those people that we're studying, that were horrible, heinous people. They will have ceased to have ever existed, because nobody will remember. And once God forgets you, there is no going back. So there is no heaven, there's no hell, there's no suffering, afterlife. And I mean, really sit yourself down and think about it. What kind of a God do you want? And then know that you have the kind of God that you want. Because God knows us. God knows its children. God designed us. And He knows what we like. And this is why there is no heaven where we will exist as ghosts. We will continue to live a physical life. And God takes care of us in everlasting life. We're spoiled. And when we do extreme sports and stuff, um, we do hurt ourselves in everlasting life. It's real life. We experience pain, but we will never die because God rescues us. And that's all in my book too, how God does it. So you will never die. And I remember, this is very hard to accept. We're so used to death. But I was born as Scareth, infant intelligence. And I guess, in a way, it's really, really special to be born infant intelligence, because then when you join everlasting life and you remember, for example, your parents dying, you remember that loss of life. And then you really, truly appreciate everlasting life for infinity in a way that people who are born into everlasting life just may never have that appreciation, that experience of loss, because they've never experienced death. Only animals still live their lives. And I'm going to talk about animals and our relationship with them. There's so much I have to talk to you about. So these are the 4+1 signs that Judgment Day is near. The 4 signs is that happen on every infant intelligence planet. So this is all the same. Like I said, the experiences of infant intelligence are very similar, and the focus is to guide infant intelligence to come to this technological era where we have high-speed internet, and then we also have the sharing apps. And so these 4 signs is what usually happens during the awakening era on infant intelligence planets. Lots and lots of UFO sightings. If you go to my channel as Scareth, but I'm also going to post them on this channel. Then like Space Ferrari boat, seashell UFO, flash UFO, star UFO. That's the kind of UFO activity that's going to be lots and lots and lots and lots and lots and lots from all over the world. I believe they're going to be even better than mine because seashell UFO is pretty incredible. You can find seashell UFO in UFO Acrobats, and it shows us that in EL we have cloaking technology, and technology that allows us to change what the spaceship looks like from the outside. So it's not that it's actually changing shape, but it's just a cloaking technology. And the best video is UFO Acrobats. Everybody in the world should see it. So I need video experts. Where are they? Where are the video experts from the 90s to show people just how special and incredible UFO Acrobats is? That's 1. Lots of UFOs. 2. Celestial anomalies. I believe they're already happening. We've already, since after my awakening, beginning, I think 2017 was Oumuamua, 2018 were the kilonova of stars we didn't even know were there. That's important. So, 3, infant intelligence discovers the first planet with life on it. And on the earth, it's going to be using my video, UFO Acrobats. So I'm going to make a video talking about what I think is happening in the video and how we can use it to find the first planet with life on it. 4, soul speak. That's like the trumpet sounds. Okay. Now the thing is that I want to talk more about soul speak, but it pertains to how sound can impact us. When we hear a sound, it can make us think things and even feel things, and it can literally change our beliefs. That is how powerful music and sound is. So know that when you hear the trumpet sounds, that they're sounds of technology. The spaceships are creating them, and I'm going to talk in more detail about what is happening on the spaceships while those sounds are happening. But because the earth is very, very, very bad, the intelligence virus is very prevalent on the earth. That means slavery. Slavery is very prevalent. And slavery, again, includes lies. And now we have, deep fakes AI. We have videos by AI, and the awakening era could be drowned out by these deep fakes. And God knew this way before I was born, even. God knew this right at the beginning, how bad Earth was going to be. And so God has chosen to awaken everybody else who is from everlasting life as well, to help during the awakening era, because God loves his children and does not want to lose so many children to the intelligence virus. For example, petty theft, petty crimes, petty bullying. God does not want to lose you. It doesn't matter what you've done in the past. You can self-judge and self-redeem. And you self-redeem just by simply doing good deeds. And that means if you have slaves, whether you're bullying, stealing, or, mentally manipulating, you need to stop and then just do good deeds. And that's how you will wake up on Judgment Day. And please remember, we all have the intelligence virus. Even I'm not sitting here trying to tell you to be a certain way. I have work to do on myself. And there's negativity, negative thinking that happens. Remember, it's the negative actions that you take that decide whether you go to everlasting life or not. So if you have negative thinking, and some of it can be disturbing and very bad, confess it to God, because of our design. The intelligence virus spreads once we open our mouths and share those kinds of thoughts. So share them only with God, and know that God does not judge. We are self-judging. God is our intelligence Father, and God is the kind of God that we all want, including that God is not a spying God. God does not listen to our thoughts. God is not within our minds. We must talk to God out loud. That is how God designed it. And again, because of free will. Because if God was in our minds, that would be breaking the one law. So not once during the experiences did I ever have those, where people say they're filled with love and, and this and that. I never experienced any of that. Because if you did have that experience, therefore, if you believe you did, it was self-initiating, then that would be a form of slavery. Being able to feel somebody else's anger or love or anything, that would enslave you to their emotional state. So this is why telepathy, we cannot read each other's minds. We must communicate verbally, and this includes God, and goes on into everlasting life. Is that we communicate with God verbally. So God decided that the intelligence virus is too prevalent on the earth. Therefore, everybody who is from everlasting life will also be awakened. They will be awakened through 3 or 4 signs, physical signs, nothing scary, nothing enormous. And I've experienced these as an example. And you must experience all 3, and they must all be happening on the same side of the body. So either the left or the right. Again, nothing scary, nothing big. Or you are not from everlasting life. But if you are married in everlasting life, then you will experience a 4th sign. And I'm going to make a more detailed video about that. So here, there is a chance that the mass awakening, I'm a little bit, again, the awakenings are a internal experience, and because we self-talk, I might have not gotten everything correct regarding the sign, the awakening era, and then the 4th sign. So there is a chance that this mass awakening might happen another way, and that is that God will awaken all of his children. And I believe, at least I did, during the awakening, that this would be happening on Christmas. That means one Christmas, you will all wake up, and all of a sudden you will have a memory from everlasting life. And then you must speak to God out loud. You must ask questions. But I believe that even then you would still be experiencing the 3 or 4 signs that you are from everlasting life. I don't know how the awakening era will happen on Earth. But if you see a UFO, and please have your cameras ready. And I'll tell you how I have videos of my UFOs is I was watching jets. I got a camera where you could zoom in. But why? Because I took a picture of what I thought was a jet. This is not in the water, this is in the air. And then when I took 2 pictures of this, unfortunately I don't have video, but then when I looked at the picture and I zoomed in, that is what I saw. It was a boat. And I became obsessed. I wanted to see it. I named it Space Ferrari Boat. I wanted to see it again, and this time I wanted a video, because I remember when I seen this. I took this with my phone. So this is a jet. It's supposed to be a jet. It has a jet trail. But I was able to zoom in with my phone. It wasn't even that high up, because jets are supposed to be at least, I think, 25,000 feet up in the air. But there's no way. This was not even that high. It made no sound. And had a really short jet trail. And even with my naked eye, when I looked up, there was no wings I could see. It kind of had a shape like a torpedo, what I thought, which you think I would be like kind of freaking out seeing a torpedo flying over my house, but it was not a torpedo, it was a boat apparently. And so that is how I became obsessed with trying to find Space Ferrari boat again. And that is why I have so many videos of jets. And then as I'm taking videos of the jets and the jet trail, things were happening in the sky. That is how I got my UFOs. So, how long is this video now? Oh, my. Time goes by fast when you talk a lot. So, I will finish up with saying that please, if you want to hear more, subscribe. Please come back. I will post Judgment Day and Thereafter on Amazon for free. It's just that right now I need to add some more stuff into it. I've decided before it was just a Scarce life story, but I've decided to include also kind of like a short term. It's a very concise book. I'm not embellishing it in any way. And it's basically how I remember it. And but I want to add my awakening experience and have that progression of how God does it in the book. So I'm still kind of working on that. And then I will make it available on Amazon for free. And meanwhile, I'm going to continue to make videos. There's so much I need to talk about. I know we're very busy, so I'm going to try to keep my videos a lot shorter than this one. And if I left anything hanging and you have questions, please let me know in the comments. And I hope to see you soon. Peace.